The implementation of the knowledge is the most important thing. This entrepreneurship journey, but I don't believe you can be body positivity and want to make a change at the same time.
Let's say if they're a bit overweight, underweight, it doesn't matter.
Because you're already at rock bottom. Think about it from a logical perspective. How do these companies make money?
The question I'm trying to ask is a personal trainer really necessary? Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of the FMU Founders Mindset Unfiltered podcast. I'm joined here today with once again another special guest. He's a fitness coach with 6+ years experience in the fitness industry. With a psychology degree from Northumbria, he not only focuses on the physical aspect of fitness, but also the mental challenges that come with it as well. He also has a YouTube channel with over 1,000 followers, where he posts regularly giving out tips, tricks about fitness and also his own fitness journey as well. Recently, he introduced his own online fitness coaching platform called Ozone, where he can help people achieve their own fitness dreams and goals and overcome any mental block that comes with it. Without further ado, his name's Nithin Thomas. Nithin, it's lovely to have you join us today.
Thank you so much, bro. I mean, the introduction was pretty heavy. You have to live up to that.
Was it good enough?
You could have to live up to that, bro. Nah, that's sick, bro.
No,
Appreciate
you'll
that.
be fine. No worries. So, Nithin, from what I understand, being in the fitness industry, it can be a lot of hard work. It can take a lot of hard work. There are many different aspects, such as going to the gym, counting your calories, meal prep, so on and so forth. One thing that you will need, and even at some points might even rely on, is having that discipline and consistency. How important is discipline and consistency when it comes to fitness and health?
I think it's everything. But I feel like without it, there isn't any point in starting a journey if you don't feel like that's a skill that needs to be developed. But the thing with that is, I always say fitness is, I call it like the gateway drug, because you can do it and then you build the skills from that, which you can apply to all the different areas of your life, right? For example, if I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I didn't have these skill sets of discipline and consistency that I gained from the gym. And I've openly said this in my videos. It's not because I went to school. It's not because I got a degree. Which for some people it may be, but for me, it clicked. That discipline and consistency was when I sustained my training, my nutrition, my sleep, my habits for that many years. So then it became a character trait. And then it's like, okay, so even nowadays when things are tough, I tell myself, well, have I managed to maintain my physique through this many years? And yes, why not apply the same principle to that? So discipline and consistency is literally one of the main foundational pillars, fitness and health and life overall, in my opinion.
So I mean, well, from what it sounds like, you've got that discipline, you've got that consistency quite locked on, and you've had it locked on for quite a few years.
Yes.
For some people, what they might be wondering is, well, actually, let me word it differently. A lot of people lack that discipline. They lack that consistency. In your opinion, do you think it's something that you're born with, or is it something that you can be taught? Is it something that you learn maybe a bit later on?
That's a good question, you know. I feel like personally, you unlock it, but you unlock it in an area which is a bit of a natural disposition to you, if that makes sense. So, I gave this analogy in one of my videos as well. Do you remember the guys that in high school or secondary school, whatever, they'd smash out their exams, they'd, do everything part and parcel on the dot, A star, A star, A star. If you notice, they knew exactly where they wanted to be. They wanted to be a dentist or a doctor or engineer, so they sat there. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I had no focus, no dream like that. So the discipline consistency wasn't a need for me. I feel like for many young men or ambitious guys nowadays, that can be that catalyst, because most of them go to school, go to uni, but we don't do what we want to do. We just do what our mum does, especially being in an Asian environment. We don't have much say, right? That's just the way it goes. But when it comes to your gym, when it comes to the physique, your fitness, how you look, how you operate, you have full autonomy of that. So if you can choose, this is where I want to be, and you say, this is the vision of my physique, then that's a value that's innate to you. I feel like then you will unlock the discipline and consistency necessary to do that. But you have to find a worthy enough goal that relates to you first. Now, for me, like I'm just saying physique, but for a lot of people, it could be, being a better runner. It could be being football, it could be cricket, whatever it is, right? But I feel like there's a natural disposition that people have. And when you realize what that is, you'll automatically in your mind be like, right, I need to be
Mhm.
disciplined in order to achieve.
As long as you have that dream set, then
Yeah,
you'll do. You. I think that applies. Yeah, it applies to everything really. As long as you have that dream set, you'll do anything to go for it.
exactly.
You mentioned before that during high school, you didn't really have the plan. You didn't really have a plan. You were just going with it. So the question I'm trying to ask is: have you ever had times then where you've lacked that discipline, and if so, how did you overcome it?
Bro, my discipline still is not where I want it to be. And not a chance. Like, if people ask me what's your goal, I was like, to be more consistent, to be more I don't think it ends, right? It's always
Okay,
going to be
you can always get better.
always get better. You can always get better. It's something that you literally work a whole lifetime to achieve because there's so many different areas of your life that you need to improve and be more disciplined in, right? So I'll give you an example. Um, for example, when I first started the business, when I started dialing into, the outreach phase, reaching out to clients, pushing people, trying to it's very uncomfortable because you're going to get faced with rejection again and again and again. But I found myself not opening my messages because I didn't want to see the reply. So I just stopped off and I just avoid it. And I just, just like, I don't want to see the rejection. But then you realize, okay, this is something that I need to come to terms with. I need to face this dragon, let's call it, and I have to overcome it. So you do that once, you do that twice, you do that third time, you do it again and again and again. Then all of a sudden, you open up the chat on the 20th time and it doesn't have an impact on you. And that is literally the same as going to the gym, right? Let's say you want to lose weight and get in shape or, do whatever you want to do. The first time you step in the gym, ball ache. Second time, still the same. But third, fourth, fifth, maybe now you start to see some positive results. So absolutely, even to this day, discipline is something I'm trying to improve. And there's always going to be a different area that you can improve it within.
Mhm.
So yeah, 100%.
That's fair enough. I mean, we mentioned just now when it came to your business, you're a bit scared of that fear of judgment.
Yeah.
A bit scared of that feedback. But when it comes to starting a business, just like yourself, being an entrepreneur, um, you'll you'll find that you have quite a bit of less time in your schedule to go to the gym and to do all these things and just normal activities. Have you ever had those, have you ever realized, I'm so that into work that I don't really have time for this other stuff? And if so, how do you plan to balance business and normal life?
From my experience and from the people that I've learned from, it's a sacrifice. There is no
Yeah.
balance. So I came to terms with that. And you can probably ask Melvin, he'll vouch for this. I don't really step out that often because there's enough for me to do that I'm always in the back of my mind, there's something I have to do. So in my head, it always comes down to priority, right? So let's just say right now, if I had to list just a couple of things in my head, and this is going to be brutal honesty, what goes through my mind. So the first priority is my religion. I'm obviously very religious, so that's important to me. After that, it'll be my business and my health. Then it will be social and family. So that's how it goes. That's just honestly what my mind says. So then, if they're my priorities, and what I will do is I will schedule those things into my calendar first, locked in. If after that I'm in a position where something comes up, I will do it. But I will never take away the gym to meet a friend, right? I'll never take away my business or recording a video to call someone. That just won't happen. If I don't have my priority 1, 2 set up, then I will not do anything else. And then that's basically where the challenge comes in because people want to have the cake and they want to eat it as well, but it doesn't work like that. You got to give something up to go up. I don't know if you know someone called Bob Proctor. He gave this analogy, and since then it's really stuck to me. He said, if you got a table where you keep a TV and you want to put a new TV there, you got a dusty old TV. What do you do first? You remove the old one.
Yeah.
Most people try to put a new TV where all the other clutter is, and they're like, "Why is it not fitting on?"
Well,
You got to take off the old to go in with the new. It's brutal, but it's the truth, and that's what I feel like you have to do. And you constantly evaluate your life, right? What little thing can I take off to add in? What little thing can I take off? And like you said, over the coming years, you become a different person in that process. But sacrifice is the only way to entrepreneurship, in my experience, anyway.
I mean, you said before that you don't really have a plan and that you don't really, you can improve in discipline. But from what I'm hearing, I think you got it pretty on muck. You got it all planned out.
Yeah, that's the thing where you'll know it, but then implementing it, I feel there's always a
It's
time gap.
different, is it? Yeah.
See what I mean? You'll know what to do, but then you have to do it again and again and again, like I said, until it becomes automatic. So I'll never wake up and ever say, okay, I'm max discipline. Like, you could go to the gym and there might be a set that I slacked on, right? I could have done an extra round on the treadmill in my sprints, but I gave up. There's always a little bit extra that you could do. So if I ever find myself saying, oh yeah, I'm max discipline, I'm max consistency, then I know that I'm either not going to a zone of discomfort where the growth is, or I'm settling, which is worrying.
As a conclusion, I think we can both agree without discipline, it'll be extremely hard to achieve good results.
Absolutely.
However, there are some cases where people lack this discipline because of this fear of judgment. I've talked to some people and I've asked them what the reason is to why they don't really commit to going to the gym. And some of them, they've said that it's because they're too scared to be surrounded by so many people who are so far into their fitness journey that they'll feel a bit embarrassed. They'll feel a bit scared, to be surrounded by these people. Have you ever been in a position like that?
Yeah, that's literally what it is when I stepped into entrepreneurship, because you're surrounded by all the guys. You don't see any entrepreneurs that are just coming up. You go on the Instagram feed, you see the Hormozes, you see the Chris Williamsons, you see the Dogs Eatings from Represent and all these guys. They made it to the top. And you're coming in like a little fish in a big pond.
A rookie, yeah.
Rookie. You're literally like a pawn in the game. So you'll only be surrounded by that. But then I feel like you need to be a little bit delusional. This is where I think you have to have some sort of a mentality where you feel like I will get there one way or another. That's just
manifestation.
You got to believe it. And the thing is, at the start, you won't have any evidence that's going to support your claim, but you just have to back yourself because no one else is going to do it. So instead of what I found is believing in the fact that you're going to become a massive entrepreneur, you break that little thing into smaller steps. So do I believe I can post 2 videos a week? Cool. Can I do that for a year? Amazing. So now I've done the first step. See? Okay, next thing. Okay, can I get some 1 or 2 results for some clients? Cool. Can I do that? Can I help them change their life? All right, so why not apply that to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50? So you start to believe in things a little bit more, but this process takes time, right? But you have to have that delusional mindset of I can get there in the end, but I will give myself little tokens of wins to build myself up to that point. Because like I said, you're a little fish in a big pond with these big guys. You will feel out of place. That's normal. But my thing would be if you're feeling like that, that's a good thing. Because it shows that you're out of your comfort zone. I think a lot of people nowadays avoid the feeling of discomfort and they try to mask it through, maladaptive or suboptimal habits like, binge eating, going on the phone all the time, Netflix, TV shows. They just mask. But if you said that all the way, you'll realize you have more time on your hands, and most people with more time on hands will want to do something productive. And to do something productive, you'll be outside your comfort zone. And to be outside your comfort zone, you won't feel good. But that should be a good thing. But people don't see it that way in my eyes. Like that should be okay, I'm in the right track. I don't feel comfortable. If that makes sense.
So what we're saying is take those baby steps, build up that courage, build up that, knowledge, and then you'll fly from there. Because let's be honest, to start a business, it takes a lot of courage. As we mentioned before, because the path of entrepreneurship is viewed as untraditional, especially in the Asian community, as you know.
Absolutely.
We've got the traditional route of school, then college, uni, then a typical 9 to 5.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you've been doing your online fitness coaching for quite some time now, but you've only just recently released your own full-fledged platform called Ozone, which, by the way, is incredible. What I want to know is, before you launched it, whether there was fears, you mentioned before, there was fears of opening those messages, getting all the feedback, but was there any big fears of judgment before you started?
That's a good question. To be honest, when I started like this entrepreneurship journey, I was in a very tough spot. So that spot, it's like when the pain is so much, you don't really think about what's going to happen worse than that because you're already at rock bottom. So this is why I say most people who start businesses, they've got nothing to lose. They're the most dangerous people because when I started it, I was in such a low place that I was like, it couldn't go any worse than this. I wasn't thinking about it. So I was like, the only way is up, right? That's why I don't know if you heard something, it's called like the region beta paradox. It's basically where your life's not bad enough for you to make a change. So you'll stay in the same place. So sometimes in a really shitty situation is your biggest advantage because it forces you to shift. right? So I was in that, and honestly, at that point, I didn't really care. I wasn't bothered about anyone's judgment. I'm like, well, I need to sort my life. So because of that, I just used that momentum and that energy as like a catalyst to go forward, right? And only recently, now that I started to maybe come out a little bit more, like, when I'm posting on YouTube and stuff, I'd have, uncles and aunties from home come, oh yeah, I'm seeing your YouTube videos. But first I was like, oh no, I'm saying some dumb stuff on there sometimes. But after a while, I thought of it and I was like, you know what? That's actually who I am. Like, I'm putting myself out there. So, and I know that there's, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people that back you, there's always going to be people that hate you. That's how it goes, right? The worst thing you can do is be in the middle. So if I'm putting myself out there, I'm going to have fans, I'm going to have people that don't like me. That's just part and parcel. And I just accept that now. So I'm like, okay, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. The best thing I can do is be myself, right? And then when I'm doing that, I'll attract the right people. If an uncle or an auntie or people from back home, they don't like it, they don't like it. So be it. They're just part of that category now of the people who don't support, which is everyone. But even Cristiano Ronaldo, arguably the greatest football player in the world, has haters. So why have I complained it? You know what I mean? Every successful person in every industry who's made it somewhere has a group of people absolutely this guy's the worst. So am I gonna complain about that? It's just part of the game. Do you know what I mean? To realize that.
And it was you've taken that fear of judgment, and you really overweighed the self acceptance part. You've taken the self acceptance part in, and that's what you've put out. And that's what you put out onto social media. That's what you put out onto your fitness coaching, which is great.
Absolutely.
But speaking of self acceptance, obviously this fear of judgment, it can really demotivate people, and it can lead to people, not going to the gym because of that. They don't want to. Obviously, you've got that on the lock, I'd say, but some people might not.
Absolutely.
But however, recently, for the past couple of years now, there's this movement, the body positivity movement.
Right.
It aims to promote and accept all bodies, all sizes, regardless of the appearance. I want to get your opinion on the body positivity movement, because I think we can both agree that back then, let's say around 2000, 2010, it was more socially accepted to call people out maybe when they're slacking off a bit, and to give them the straight up honesty. But now we've got the body positivity movement, which teaches us to accept everyone. What's your opinion on it?
So what is this positivity movement? Is it just you don't need to do anything, or you just like fully accept as they are?
So it depends on how you see it. It depends, because basically what the body positivity movement is saying is that you see someone, and regardless of their size, let's say if they're a bit overweight, underweight, it doesn't matter. It's them. It's that person that they are.
Yeah.
And the body positivity movement, it teaches us to accept who they are.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
So in a weird way, yes, I know, and I've come to this realization very recently. You see, like when I'm trying to change people's lives, it's a very difficult position if I want them to change more than they want to change. So a lot of times I realize when I'm speaking to people, I want them to change their body and their life, the best version of themselves, more than they want it. So I'm trying to put a mindset into them, which work, because I'm basically reflecting myself into them. The best people that I've worked with and the people that have looked at themselves and they said, I want to make a change. Really, I'm not with where I am. I need to level up, step up, unlock my potential. And then I help those people. So in a weird way, if someone comes to me and if someone's they're overweight and they're happy, they're doing their thing, I don't really care, because you do your thing. You're not part of my group. Do you see what I mean? But if you're overweight and you're trying and you're making an effort, welcome to the team. I will get you to where you want to go. I will help you transform your life. But if you're happy eating burgers and fries and living a sedentary lifestyle, cool. You don't expect to be part of my team. That's all I'm. See what I mean? Because you can't think for everyone. My lifestyle, it revolved around fitness. It's revolved around becoming the best version all the time, and people around me know that. That's just the way it is. So if you want to become someone in my team or join my program or work with me, you have that mentality. So if you're in the body positivity and you're happy where you are, cool. You do you. I don't care.
Yeah.
It literally makes no difference.
everyone's got different mindsets. Everyone's got different bodies.
Exactly. And you can't change. That's the thing. You got to accept the different characters for who they are.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to do when you get into business, because at the start, you want to go for everyone. You want everyone to have the same thought process as you, but it doesn't work like that. So the challenge is to find the people who think like you, who have the same visions as you, and you basically have done this particular, let's call it a quest, like in a video game, getting in shape. Now you help them do that. But if they don't want to play the game, then why am I bothering wasting my time in the first place? My energy. See what I mean? There's people that want my help, so I'm gonna put it into that. So yeah, they want to do that. They want to be on health. That's up to them. No, nothing to do with me.
In that case, let me ask you another question. Still on the same topic. Do you think body positivity and self-acceptance can coexist with each other with a desire to change your body through fitness and diet? So let me elaborate on that. We've got body positivity, which we all know, acceptance of the body that you've got now. And then we've got self-acceptance, where you have to accept the body that you're in, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
You have to be able to accept yourself before you can make any changes.
Yeah.
So do you believe they can coexist when you've got that desire to change?
So I believe the self-acceptance is an important part, but I
Okay.
don't believe you can be body positivity and want to make a change at the same time, right? So if I was happy where I am, then why would I make a change into trying to become an entrepreneur or building a business? The desire and the pain is the thing that's going to cause you to make the shift. But I think you made a very important point about self-acceptance, because a lot of the time you can feel like, oh shit, I'm really down, I'm out. But if you look at yourself and like, okay, cool, I'm here right now, and this is where the gratitude comes in. You can say, right, thank God I've got 2 arms and a leg, and I've got access to a gym. I may be overweight, but I accept this is where I am now. I've got a goal and I can work towards it. But if you start telling yourself at the same time, I'm happy where I am, then the equation doesn't add up, because then you have no desire to make a change.
But contradicting.
It contradicts, exactly. I don't think you can be positive about your body and still have a serious desire to make a change. Unless, let's say you're like really well into your fitness journey and you can take an honest account and you're like, yeah, yes, I'm doing my 5K in 15 minutes, right? Obviously not going to think to yourself, but then you still want to improve it a little bit more, but you can be honest and accept yourself, okay, I'm in a good spot, fitness-wise, but I still want to get better, right? But if you're starting your journey and you're doing your 5K in 40 minutes, right, for example, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm happy where come on, bro. Like, let's be honest. You got to be objective a little bit and look at it. Let's say if you say to yourself, I want to get in superhero shape, right, but you're built like a twig. Like, you can't just lie to yourself and be like, oh, yeah, accept myself to be looking at, delude yourself, because you step out into the real world and you can't lift the bench. You don't fill out a t-shirt. You're scared to take your top off when you go on holiday. So these two things have to go together, but the body positivity, I feel like, contradicts if you're serious about making some sort of change. But like I said, self-acceptance, an important part to start the journey, for sure.
So I mean, you can be grateful for the body that you've got, but there's always a way you can make yourself better. There's always a way you can improve.
Absolutely.
Is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
With this whole body positivity movement, you normally tend to see it online. So we've got different social media platforms. We've got TikTok, Instagram. You know, you have those little comments, you know, on the post saying, "Oh, you look great. You look all this." So it's big on social media. Well, I want to switch topics a little bit. I want to talk about social media for a second. How do you find that social media has helped you build your brand?
So
and build yourself up?
My main platform is YouTube, and honestly, I probably wouldn't be in the place where I am, health-wise, fitness-wise, entrepreneurship-wise, if it wasn't for YouTube. So me personally, I've made all the positive changes from long-form content, right? I've never gone on Instagram and searched how to build a business, right? I don't really think many people do that. They just scroll, find something. So for that reason, I thought, if I've taken information from YouTube, I will not be the only person that's in that same position. There'll be other people like that. So why not provide to the platform that's helped me? Because that's the way that I've sort of viewed the world. And I always say social media is like a sword, right? You can either grab it by the handle or you can grab it by the blade. And at the start, when I was beginning my fitness journey, I was grabbing it by the blade, right? You go on Instagram and you see all the guys, then I wouldn't even say top 1%. It would be 0.001%. And half of these guys claiming natty that are on gear. So it's just starting your journey and you're seeing something that's not even attainable in your lifetime. And you're comparing yourself to that. But the problem is that social media skews reality. So you see more people online, but if you take the 100 people on social media randomly, they are not the same as 100 people in real life. It took me a long time to figure this out, right? So
can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, cool. So let's just say, let's say me, for example. If you put me in there and you take a random 100 fitness coaches online, there's a very good chance I'll probably be in the lower tier of the fitness. You see what I mean? Because only the top guys are getting there. Half the guys that are on gear and natty and whatever, you don't even know what they're doing behind closed doors. So you think to yourself, oh, on this online space, damn, I'm pretty back there. I'm not really doing that well. But then it's completely different when you go into real life, right? Let's just say you take 100 random people from real life, you realize, what the hell? I'm very far up there. This is what throws a lot of people off, I feel like, from starting something as well, because they look at the online space and they're so far down here, but online doesn't represent real life, you see. So that's an important shift you have to make. So then when you look at it here, like, I was always confused because, for example, I look online and I'd be like, there are people that way better than me, but then I'd go to a gym and people be asking me for tips and stuff. And I'm like, well, how does this make sense? Like, I'm not big as David Lade or Mike there. But then you realize that when you go to a gym, there isn't that many David Lades or Mike Thurstons there. You see what I mean? So you get
not
to
as
this
many as you
place
see
where,
online.
exactly, it's just what it's so you have to be very, very careful of that. And I always say this, one of the most enjoyable periods I ever had in my fitness journey was after I came from COVID and I deleted socials and I just focused on myself. And it was so nice because I just was able to just dial in on myself and I realized I don't actually need that. I feel like that should honestly be like a treatment for guys that are going through that. Just like 5 to 6 months, just don't look at socials. Focus on the plan, stick to it. And once you realize I'm happy with where I am, I'm going on the right track, I'm not deluded by the fakeness online, you can reintroduce that back into your life. Right now, when I go on socials, obviously I have to be on there. I can tell, right, okay, so this person's probably on this person's probably natural, but I don't brand myself as the biggest or the leanest guy. I'm just a guy who's tries to build, you could probably on my YouTube, I was just building an aesthetic body to look good, feel good, be lean. I don't claim to be the biggest guy. I don't claim to be the most shredded guy. Just look good and feel good and have a body that's capable of being fit. Now, that's a completely different thing. That's like a more mature version than the younger me, which was always thinking, I need to be the biggest guy on social media. Muscle mass and fit everywhere. You ain't winning that battle.
No.
Do you see what I mean? There's a market of people there that just want to look good and feel good, but you need to step off social media for some time to realize that that's reality. And I feel that's an important shift that people have to make, especially when they get into their fitness journey.
It's all about perspective, really. Then
Yeah,
it depends on how you see things. Because let's be honest, I've been through that phase as well, where you just need that cleanser from social media, because it brings in a lot of stuff, and it just makes life seem unrealistic in a way.
absolutely, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Now, if we stick to social media for a second,
Cool.
another issue with having a channel like you do is creating new ideas. How do you make sure that each experience with your YouTube channel is a different one?
As in videos wise that people watch.
As in videos wise, because is it not hard to keep thinking of good ideas and posting out brand new content that's not been seen before?
That is true. So there's like a weird way that I really look at YouTube and content nowadays. And one of the main pillars is that people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught something new. Right. So I used to fear doing repetitive content or speaking the same message again and again. But let's be honest, why do you buy Nike? It's because they've got a slogan, just do it. Why do you buy Apple? They don't change the design from one slim MacBook to one thick MacBook. They keep it slim, they keep it tidy. So there has to be a brand message, I feel, that resonates throughout. This is my opinion. That's what people will come back to. So I don't fear, let's say, repeating certain points, or if there's something that I really believe is the best way, I'll talk about that again. Because I genuinely believe that's going to be the thing that changes people's lives. That's what we're there for, build an impact. And also, you got to realize that every time you post a new video, that's reaching people who have never seen your content before, right? No idea who you are. So if you skip past key things because you've said it in the last video, and the person watching the new video ain't getting the full amount of value. So that's one thing. Not too bothered about the creating fresh and super new every time. Another one is just taking a bit more time to enjoy the process. I feel like with me, there was a period where I I'm a very systematic, logical thinker, so I'll try to plan everything out to a T. But that comes to a problem when it comes to things like video creation and creating content, because you want a bit of a loose, enjoyable, free mentality, because that's where the best ideas come from, right? So sometimes just letting your mind wander and having a random idea pop into your brain is going to be the thing that does well. Like I randomly made a video like maybe a year and a bit ago, how to build a Tyler Durden physique fight club. Random video, because I just watched Fight Club recently.
Yeah.
No plan, no action. Then that video turned out to get like over 10, 15K or whatever. Probably one of the best videos that I've done on my channel. And recently, this is the weirdest thing I've ever noticed, right? I just made a video called 10 Years of Nutritional Advice in 10 Minutes.
Right.
No fancy edits, no sick cinematography shots. I'm literally sat here with the camera, and that video has done more than all my fancy ass videos that I've done before. So you don't know what actually worked. Sometimes it might be the title, it might be the thumbnail, it might just be the fact that the video is packed with that much value that people enjoy it. So I feel like you have to, at the start especially, just enjoy the process and learn the skills of creating content and let that be your main focus. Like if you focus on the views and the subscriber count, you constantly try to shift what you're doing and you'll change everything just to try and chase that. But then you leave very important parts of your life outside of social, which people want to see. So for me, it's just like right now, enjoy the process, make videos that I feel like making. And I do have like a content ideas sheet. So whenever I walk, then if something comes into my mind, I'll jot it down. Something I've also been trying to doing is I keep this thing called a Boleskin, tiny little journal. I really recommend people start doing. I'll just write things down, whatever's going through my head, and something in there maybe pops up. Okay, cool, let's make a video on that. Or let's say I've had a conversation with a client and an interesting point he's made, or he's lost X amount of weight in X amount of time, make a video on that. So now it's sort of looking at my life experiences as a whole and seeing what lessons I can provide instead of just being, you're in the gym here, just talk about that only. Because most people that I found that we resonate with, there's another aspect of their life outside of the X thing that we follow them for. Otherwise, we wouldn't really care. That's where the relationships get built up. So sometimes taking time out of that just to show yourself, I feel is important as well.
So you really just focus on what you want to do, and as long as your message gets out, no matter how repetitive it may be, as long as it gets out, then you're happy, and as long as you're happy with the content, then so be it.
Pretty much, yes. The goal is when you start content, it's funny because you will do anything apart from be yourself.
Yeah.
And then the best content creators are the ones that can finish that loop and get back to being who they actually are. So the most authentic content creators are the people that grow the most. But because we consume content more than we create content, what we start to mimic, right? So it takes time to unlearn that part, which is what I'm trying to do right now. So taking time to just put what I want out there, not because I think like, okay, all the other content, terrible. It's just because I want to get used to being me. Like the best content creators that we watch is like when they turn the camera on, they speak. They don't feel like they're talking to a camera. They're just like, okay, this guy's just talking on. This is hip, right? And you don't need to feel like you're putting an act on, right? And you're talking what you actually believe. Let's say if I really believe that, one nutritional method is the best, but then another study comes out saying another one's the best, even though I've not done it myself, I've not implemented it. Now I want to pretend and saying this is the one's the best, try to get some views. It ain't authentic. But if I genuinely believe that this is the one method that's going to work for everyone, I should be making 15, 20, 30 videos about that one method, because that's what I believe is going to help you, right? And then people will resonate with that because it's authentic. So in a nutshell, the more authentic you are, I believe, the better you will grow an audience and more that you'll connect.
And it's all about sticking to your morals.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it links back to that self-acceptance as well.
Absolutely.
One more question, and it is once about social media.
Oh, super.
Social media has faced a big thing, and that is the rise of AI technology.
Yes.
I want to get your opinion, because now we've got platforms such as ChatGPT, where someone can go on it and type in, let's say they want a meal prep, or let's say they want a gym routine. They can type that into ChatGPT, and it will give them exactly what they're looking for. And what they can do, the people who are typing it in, they can say all their requirements and stuff like that as well. So the question I'm trying to ask is a personal trainer really necessary in that case, if we've got platforms that do such things?
So it's a great question. I actually integrate that. AI is probably one of the best things that you can do. But AI is just basically giving you the knowledge. But obviously, you need to know how to drive a car, not just watch it on YouTube, right? The implementation of the knowledge is the most important thing. But I can go and we both can go on ChatGPT and tell me, give me a list of how to make $1 million business, and it will tell you exactly what. Are we gonna do it? That's a separate question, right? So really, the thing that a coach provides is time it saves and the accountability side of things, right? Because the people that when we're working, we've got a busy life, it's very easy to just let things go, even though the information's there. Applying it is the hardest part. So, and from an actual like numbers perspective, the fitness industry is booming, is growing year after year after year because there's a need for it. So I believe AI is very powerful. I feel like it should be used. Like if you don't have access to something and you want to get the answer to make a meal plan, cool, you can find that out. But then you also need to know how to implement that. And I feel like that's where the content and people showing their personal experiences comes in. If AI can tell you, do flexible eating, or AI can tell you do a meal plan, but if you click on someone's video and he's giving you direct relational experiences and he's working a similar job to you and he said this is the best way because X, Y, Z, now you will 100% feel like this is the better way to go because you've actually seen a human being respond and show that. So I think the accountability and implementation of the knowledge is the most important thing. So even if you have all the knowledge in the world, you still won't do what's necessary unless you know how to implement it.
But let's say even if someone decides, okay, I'm not gonna go with ChatGPT, I'll get a personal trainer. Online, and you mentioned this before actually. There's a lot of people saying a lot of different things when it comes to the gym.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, when it comes to meal planning, we've got the keto diet. People say that's the right way. We've got a calorie deficit. People say that's the right way. What do you believe is the right way?
This is a great question, and I feel like that comes down to the philosophy of the person, right? For me, this is my experiences that I'm talking about. I believe in just having a balanced, nutritional diet. There's a couple of key principles which I want to mention, which, like you said, it ties to the brand. One is for the carb side of things, I try to stick to as much whole carbs as possible. Natural carbs from the ground. That's the way that I work, right? So,
what does that do for the body?
so if you have more natural sources of carbs, it's absorbed by your body better. And you have a smaller insulin spike as well if you have a lot of processed carbs. So if you have, for example, whole meal bread compared to white bread, the spike of insulin is less. And that spike of insulin is the thing that can cause a crash where you feel tired after.
Okay. Right.
There's a lot more nutrients within each, like potato or rice, and it's well absorbed. And you'll notice if you eat that, you don't feel as bad as after you eat, for example, fucking fries or, like carbs that are not natural. So that's something that I've experienced personally. So I can talk about that. So that's something that's helped me. So another couple of principles that I use is intermittent fasting, right? So I always say that the first couple of hours of the day fast, especially if you've got work to do, and especially if you're in a fat loss phase. That helps your body use some of the fat stores, right? And you're actively increasing the chance of being in a deficit. Super to you can use, for example, black coffee to stun your appetite. So let's just say if you're normally having breakfast, which is 600 calories, 500 calories, if you're intermittent fasting, automatically, without changing anything else, you have dropped 600 calories, right? So you're very much more likely to be in a deficit, which will help you lose weight. That's just a couple of principles that I have. And obviously some people will be like, you have to go keto, cut the carbs. Some people do carnivore. But I feel like every single macronutrient has a purpose within the body. So cutting something out is only going to diminish a certain area of it. Some people disagree. Like that's up to them. For example, carbs, people hate carbs, but that's one of the best sources of energy, right? You're going to get glucose released into your bloodstream from that. So if you have carbs before a session, your pump will be absolutely insane. Like it's as crazy. You have such a better session and your brain needs it to function as well. So I believe everything has a source, has a use, but where that comes from, that's up to the person and their particular philosophy, if that makes sense. Like some people are like, just do cheap, what is it called? Dirty bulking, right?
Yeah.
Do as much as you can, get the crisps, get the chocolate, get this, get that. And yes, you can pack on a lot of weight very, very quickly. But for me, I still want to be optimized throughout the day. I want to be focused. I want to have nice teeth. I don't want my stomach to be stuck in. I don't want bad skin. Some people don't care about that because all they want is size. So in my philosophy, I would say never dirty bulk. Bump your calories up, but do it with the good food. and that way you put on proper size without having to go on an extreme cut afterwards, right? So you can still be optimized throughout the day.
So it really does depend on the type of person you are at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to kind of switch back to the entrepreneurial side of it.
Yeah.
Let's say, yes, you've got a meal plan set. Let's say that. Or let's say you're in a position where you're working that much, because we mentioned this before, there's not really a balance that you can find. You've got a meal plan, but you've not really got that time to execute it. And that can affect someone's body, someone's fitness journey. And I'm sure you've been in that position as well. So what's a piece of advice that you'd give to someone that's going through that right now, but they've got too much work and they can't really be focusing on that fitness side right now?
So one of the things I do with my clients is we create like different protocols depending on what season of life they're in, right? So let's just say a perfect example right now, one of my clients, we started him on a 3-day routine, but then he started feeling confident, waist side coming down, it's also around 12 kg, smashing it. So he said, you know what, let's bump up to a four-day. He messaged me saying, let's go up to 4s. So he's on 4-day routine. Then he had a flat move. He's going to go sailing with work or something. He's got some other things to do with business. He's got a very busy period. So I said to him, look, bro, dial it back. You don't need to be doing the 4-day. Drop back to the 3-day routine and just focus on getting those in, right? So you have to create different approaches for different situations. And let's say in that situation where he's dropping back to 3 days, he might not have time to do a meal prep. So what's the next best? Just focus on getting nutritious food. So if you order it, just get grilled chicken, get some rice, right? Have some eggs in the morning. Don't spend time tracking. Don't spend time meal planning. Get the 3 meals in, high protein, with some fats and less carbs. Maybe go high protein in the morning, start the carb in the evening. So you have these little, like, simple rules and, forget the word, like rule of thumbs that you can just quickly implement, which help keep you on track without having to be super dialed in. And I also mentioned to him, try to keep similar eating windows, right? So there's simple things that you can remember, but it doesn't require that extra effort and extra energy if you really want to be dialed in. And then I told him, look, when you get back to good schedule, when you don't have things on the docket, then we'll go back to the 4-day routine, start hitting the macros, start hitting the calories again. But you have to be adaptable. I feel like that's the one reason why I've been able to train this long for this time. Like, I'm not stupid. For some reason, I've realized that when you get to doing full-time work, you don't have the same time that you do when you're in uni. So I'll tell you, one of the first things I did was when I was in uni, I was training, for example, 6 days a week, 7 days a week.
Right.
First thing I did when I got to work was I was working in recruitment. So I had to get a bus from where I was to work in Manchester. Right? And I knew I'm going to have to completely change my routine. So instead of going from 6 and 7, I went down to 4 days a week. And I 5:30 in the morning before work, trained, had a cold shower, had a smoothie prep because I knew I'm not going to have time for breakfast and save time. Then I went to work. Now I finished work, I've got my evening to do whatever I want to do, right? That was 4 days a week, and you can easily break that down to 3 days a week. And you can even do 2 days on the weekend if you really wanted to. So you can basically do 1 day during the week. So I feel like if it is a priority for you, there's always an answer. It just depends if you're willing to do it. But like I said, you can't expect to be dialed in 24/7, 52 weeks a year. Right? You have to know when to take the pedal off and what to do in those situations. I think that's so important. Let's say sometimes you might not even be able to get to the gym. And that happens sometimes, you might be that busy. But can you walk 5-10K steps? Yes, anyone can. Right? So you do that instead. There's always something you can do, right? Can you still at least eat good food? Yes. So you do that instead. So it's switching the mindset from I have to go balls to wall all the time to even doing a minimum amount, but sticking to a good plan is still good enough, because you're basically like in warfare, it's called holding the line. Instead of just breaking apart and letting it come through, you just hold it here and not go further back. So you just keep it there. And sometimes you need to know when to implement that strategy. One of the things I tell my clients a lot.
Sometimes it's about what you can do in that time and adapting that gym style to your normal lifestyle.
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So sometimes, well, even then, sometimes people struggle to, get the hang of it, which could lead to failure, which is also a big term in gym as well, going to failure.
Yeah.
And clearly you've developed a great physique. A great physique.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming it contained, going to failure quite a few times in the gym, as well as outside as well. How important in an entrepreneurship mindset, how important is it to translate this concept of going to failure in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, first of all, I'll be honest, the last couple of years of my training, I slacked off. I was hitting the gym, but I wasn't pushing as much as I should. Then this is why I always say you want to get outside your comfort zone. And it was when I came to Mani, I started training with a couple of the guys. And one good friend of mine, he was pushing himself to failure every single session. Then I started developing that into my session, and then my physique started getting better, and I started eating better foods. So you will have at some point a suboptimal training plan. You won't be pushing as hard as you can. And sometimes a little reminder is what you need, right? Then that philosophy started kicked in where when I go to the gym, it's like now the only thing I'm focused on is those last 2 to 3 reps where my body doesn't want to complete that set. And I tell myself that is where the growth is. So you go into the gym and first of all, for beginners, I wouldn't advise doing this. But like if you've been in for some time and you really want to get into this, then this is what you should be doing, right? Like the first, let's say 12 rep is your goal. That's the goal that you want to do. Most people, what they'll do is they'll see the 12 number on their plan and they'll just stop when the weight gets to 12. Like that's not what you want to do. You want to weight where you are just hitting that number at the end. So that last rep is everything in the tank, because as a natural, that's what's going to force your body to grow. So you can think of it in a better way where it's like, okay, so all I have to do is focus on the last 2 to 3 reps. But that's a lot nicer now in your head when you go to do it. So instead of thinking, I need to do 15 reps, you say, okay, cool. So the first 12 reps is just me getting the body. So I just need to focus on 3 reps. And that mindset shift has been so helpful for me, because now when I'm going to the gym, I just think to myself, cool. So I've got the last 2 to 3 reps. That's what I focus on. And like you said, bro, that is literally what translates into real life. It's with business, it's how much failure can you take and continue going forward. It's a bit cliche, like the Rocky thing, but it is absolutely true. Like you will get so many hits in business that you won't even know how to respond to it. It's a daily, weekly, like monthly thing, and you have expectations where you feel like, oh, I've done it, then boom, straight after what you expected, through. And then you still have to go back and do the work that you have to do, regardless, right? Imagine you're doing a full month of work, for example, in your job, and then you wait in there nicely, last day of the month, can't wait, no paycheck comes through. What the hell do you do? You've got bills. How do you react? So when people glamorize entrepreneurship, I tell them you have to be used to feelings of stress and immense pressure that you've never felt before. And this is where I think the gym has been a massive advantage for me personally. Right. One of the places where I can step outside of work is when I'm in the gym. Because when I'm flipping trying to do 2 plates on the flipping incline, I'm not thinking about business anymore. But my body's like, I need to get this weight off. But that's what you need to do sometimes, right? When I'm doing my cardio, when I'm doing my run and I'm 6 rounds in, I'm sweating, dripping. I'm not thinking about work. So that sometimes you having that place to be forced outside of thinking about it is a blessing, right? Because if I was just sat here, and I know some people like that, they're in business, but they'll just sit down on the computer. I call it like quicksand. You will just continually sink and sink and sink. Yeah. And you won't be able to be in a place where you can deal with that situation. Because let's say the ship's sinking, the ship's already going down. You better be prepared to swim, right? So you may as well learn how to swim while it's going down. So you at least got a chance of survival, right? So that's what I say. Try to build that character who can deal with those situations. Yeah. If you're in the gym, if you're exercising, I know you need to go to the biological, cognitive benefits of just exercising itself, right? You will feel way better. Your stress resilience is way higher. So you're basically priming yourself to be someone who can handle the stresses of entrepreneurship, because they are very, very much so, you know.
So I mean, the gym really helps you, get a mindset of, if you're gonna do something, do it 100%.
Absolutely.
And that can be applied to normal everyday life as well. Whether that's you're playing a
100%.
game, do it 100%. If you're
100%.
laughing, do it 100%. And it's a great mindset to have. And I think it's clear now. You've got a great mindset. You've got a lot of knowledge in this industry. So now I want to hear what you've done with this knowledge and these ideas, because you created your own website. Sorry, not website. You created your own platform called Ozone, and I want to hear a bit about it. I want to hear exactly what it is, how long you've been doing it for, just a history.
Yeah, cool. So, It's just basically an online coaching service that I do, and it's focused mainly on entrepreneurs. The reason I did this is because, like I said, when you have the knowledge and you've got something that you're good at, there's sort of two ways to go around the entrepreneurship route. There's a person who's like the pure entrepreneur who basically just wants to make money. So he will start a garbage disposal business if he knows he can make you money. And that's fair enough. Like, there are a lot of people who look into opportunities like that. And then there's someone like the artist. The artist is basically the person who has a craft, something they really enjoy and they're passionate about, and they try to make a business around that. And as you can probably tell, I'm very much on that side. Like, I tried to do the entrepreneurial route. It didn't work for me. I didn't have the drive. I didn't really care. And I can, looking back in hindsight, right now, I can tell 100% when I see the clients start to get results, I really am happy. Like, it does make
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, okay, this
Mhm,
guy's actually changing his life. He's telling me when he sees his family,
mhm.
or like, oh, yeah, I've lost a pace, but I'm looking good. You're
Yeah.
looking good. That's something that makes me feel proud because I'm making a
Mm.
difference. So I'm very much on that side. So there's almost like, for me, it's that is what I'm teaching, basically what I've learned and my experiences in helping them
Yeah.
achieve through a more sustainable approach. Because let's say what I've learned in the last 6, 7, 8 years or whatever, I'm basically condensing that. And that's basically what they're going to be essentially investing in, is the time, right? Instead of going through the lessons themselves and trying and failing and not knowing what to do, they're getting a simple, clear plan that they can follow. And I always tell them that all the information is out there. Like, you can go and do this yourself. But the question is, how much do you value your time, right? Would you rather have this problem solved soon so you can move on to the next thing of your life, or do you want to keep having this in the back of your mind? The sort of nutshell in terms of just an overview of how coaching really works. And so I first actually started coaching South Asians. That was my initial thing. And by the way, when I say platform, it's not something I've created myself. It's just that's the coaching vision that we've got, like the people that we work essentially. So yeah, I started doing that with South Asian professionals, which was really cool. But then I found that there was a category which I was really, really interested in myself, and that was the entrepreneurs who wanted to get in shape because they've got very different lifestyle, they've got very different challenges, and that's something that sort of excited me because I was in the same, I'm like obviously I'm in the same boat myself. So if I'm learning and improving myself, fitness and physically, then why not help other entrepreneurs do that? Like, I found it quite good to help people that, in a steady routine and know what they're doing. But then when you start to add flights here, going over there, meetings here, client meetings there, now it becomes more of a challenge. And obviously, like I said, you want to be outside of your zone of comfort. So I'm like, okay, so how about I focus on this instead? And for me, I feel like looking good, looking presentable, looking clean is very, very important. And that's something that entrepreneurs also align with because they know first impression is the last impression, right? So we already have more values that are aligning than previously, I felt like. So it's something that I had a more natural drive towards. So I thought, you know what, let me dive into it. And not only that, with entrepreneurs as well, yes, looking good, being fit, sorry, my alarm. Um, Looking good, feeling good physically is important, but also there's that performance side of things. You want to be dialed in. You want to know, how can I be more creative? How can I access deep work and flow state? How can I build this into a routine so I can do as much work as possible in as little amount of time as possible, right?
Yeah.
These are things that entrepreneurs will want in their day to day. So that's what I've decided. Okay, let me look at that as well. So then I've basically created something where my ideal client is an entrepreneur who wants to get in shape and maximize their performance, who's very similar to me. So I'm basically helping someone who's maybe just a couple of steps behind, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So you've seen something that you can relate to, and you've then applied your own methods, your own ideas to it, and created a great thing. While I was doing my research, I actually saw online that for this you use something called the Pareto system. Am I saying that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Could
That
you
is
could you elaborate on that, please, and just explain what that does for the body and how it applies?
absolutely, absolutely. So that's, like I said, one of the philosophies or mindsets that people take into things. So the Pareto principle is basically that 80% of results come from 20% of the inputs that you put in. And this is like widespread phenomenon. It's really weird. Like 20% of 80% of goals is scored by 20% of football players. The same with the music industry. 80% of whatever big singles are made 20% of the people. So the same approach is what you want to take within business and fitness. So for each individual at any moment in time, there is a small few things that you need to do which will generate most of your results. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's say you're really, really overweight, massively, right? is your approach going to be focused on the progressive overload of your last set and making sure you do drop sets and hammer drop sets and supersets? Or is it just making sure you have a better relationship with food? So that's a very small thing, but that's going to be the thing that's going to generate most of the results, right? But let's say with me, for example, if I was to coach myself, but I want to enhance my physique right now, should I really dial in to my relationship with food, or should I focus on the nitty gritty, making sure I get a 5-second eccentric, or I have a spotter there to help me with that extra last set? So two completely different things, but a tiny little piece which will give you 80% of the results. But this is an approach which helps you break down a massive pie into a small thing. And this 20% will change over time, right? That's really cool because now what we've done is we've taken something big and scary and broken it down into a small manageable piece. And like you said at the start, when people are scared about coming into the gym, this is probably why, if I had to guess. They've got macros, they've got calories, they've got what session to do, what split to do, how long to be in the gym. Do I do cardio then or cardio now? And then you'll know what to do. And that over-analysis is what throws them off. Same thing in business. There's a million things you can do, but there's literally only 2 or 3 things that's going to get you to the next step. And that's the same thing with fitness. And I feel like that's where a good coach really helps. They'll be able to take this big puzzle and figure out exactly just a few things that you need to do to get you to the next step. And then we apply the same principle. So instead of throwing everything on a wall and hoping something sticks, right, let's focus on these 2, 3 things for the next 6 weeks. See how that becomes, right? Is it your relationship with food? Is it the mental block that you have of going to the gym? Let's deal with that. That's a very big thing. I have someone tell me, like I'm losing weight, I'm going towards the right direction, but I just can't get myself to the gym. I could just tell that guy, all right, nah, just keep going, bro. Keep going. It's fine. Just work on the macros and the thing. But then that's not his 20%. His 20% is that he needs to have an identity shift, right? So if he's losing weight and he's not feeling like going to the gym, then I literally sent him like a little presentation. He said, you're not thinking as the 2.0 version of yourself. So you need to start thinking and acting like, what would he do? And once you start to make that shift and you start acting like him, you will become that person. So that's his 20%. And he had to focus on that. I said to him, look, every time you go to the gym, just write down your values and principles. How does, let's say, Nithin 2.0, what time does he wake up? How does he act? If he doesn't feel motivated, what does he do? And then you begin acting like him. So for him, it was more of a mindset thing. So every single person has their own 20% to focus on, which will generate 80% of the results. I really do believe that.
So no matter who came to you, you really took the root of their problems, and that's what you expanded on.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. The last thing you want to do is let a problem fester, right? And no, in my experience in coaching, every problem is a problem. So you want to help them solve that, no matter how small you may think it is, right? And make sure that they're through and through with that. Because like you said, that's going to be the thing. It could be a tiny little thing that, the movies where sometimes where people have a big wall built up and they take a tiny brick out and everything
Yeah,
goes.
then it all falls. Yeah.
That's literally what it is. So
Mhm.
most people, they won't build the foundations right. They'll overlook the thing and they'll be like, oh no, it's fine. And then they get to really good shape, but then they can't maintain it because they didn't plug that hole. So I always tell to the clients that I'm working with is, look, we're trying to build a sustainable lifestyle. That's what you said. You made a really good point of what do you do when you're busy. That's why I tell them, this is part of your life, right? Don't feel like this is a problem. This is a beautiful opportunity, because if you can manage to do something good in a busy period, then you have learned a skill. And now you can apply that skill for future, whatever it may be, whatever situation. Say we finish coaching and another really busy period comes up and you've done it before 3-4 times when I'm with him. He's gonna know,
Uh-huh.
I've done it before. It's familiar
Yeah.
territory. So I can do it again. That's really the key thing.
And that is amazing. But I want to say one more thing that I did come across when I was searching up. There was one sentence that I came across that was published by you. You said, let's face it, the conventional approach to healthcare focuses on managing symptoms, not preventing problems. Could you elaborate on that for me?
Well, I don't even remember when I posted that. So what did I say again? The conventional system.
So you said the conventional approach to healthcare focuses on managing symptoms, not preventing problems.
Yeah. So this is quite an important philosophy that I have in my mind. And
Oh.
it's like what I said before about that stress resilience and being in a position to stop those things from happening, right? This is like maybe a bit of a political viewpoint, but I do think that drug prescriptions for mental health are way overprescribed. I really, really do believe that.
Right. Why is that?
It's because if you think about it from a logical perspective, how do these companies make money? If they didn't continue the prescription, then they wouldn't have any reason to make the money. And you can look on the charts, US, UK, everywhere, it's just going up. More people are depressed, more people are getting antidepressants. This is just a continual cycle that's going to go, but that's only going to mask the problems again and again. And like I said, I'm not in a, I don't have a mask over eyes. Fitness isn't just the only solution or health and well-being, but it is a massive part of it. A huge, huge part of it. If you're not doing that side of your life and taking care of your body, how can you expect your mental health to be in a good position when you literally only have one body? It's the thing that does all the functions of your day-to-day life. Countless, thousands, probably millions of studies are talking about how you should at least be exercising 1 hour a day, eating good food, sleeping on time. I bet you can name me less than 5 people who exercise 1 hour a day and have a maintained proper sleep schedule. They're just core basics.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on those things, what we do is, what you need to do is, take this and then do this and do that, or take the fat loss instead, right? Instead of changing your mindset and changing your approach and how you view things, instead you try to go for a masking approach. And I don't feel like that's going to be the answer going forward, because where does it end, right? Where does it end? Like, if you have got a book here, actually, I was reading this, Dopamine Nation. I recommend everyone read this book. We start to adapt to the amount that you take. So let's say, for example, you're on antidepressants or something like that. Whatever drug of your choice is, right? After a period of time, your body will start to adapt to it. So you'll need more of it. And you'll need more of it just to feel the same feeling, right? It's the same thing when you get into binge eating, when you get into social media, when you, whatever it is, addict, you want more and more and more of the same thing to feel the same feeling, right? But that doesn't end. It's a bottomless pit. You see what I mean?
I
What
do.
you should, what I do believe, what I really believe is we should go back and saying, what's the problem? What's causing this, right? Is he taking care of his basic necessities? Is he spending too much time on his phone? Does he have a period of time where he is just with his thoughts, right? Does he have an exercise routine established? Is he sleeping on time? What's his social circle like? Look into these aspects before you just give people loads of drugs and just tell them to just get on it. It's solve all your problems. That's just my belief. And I really do believe that a lot of and from my coaching as well. Like, I've seen people come onto the program and they're like, I don't feel too good and whatever. And, they don't feel like they're the most confident and best version of themselves. And then a couple of months down the line, they're a completely different person, right? Their face is vibrant. You can see like the energy coming off of their face. They're more bubbly, they're more excitable. And how is that not going to be the case, right? If you've made a physical transformation in your own body through your own hard work and effort, how would that not leave a positive imprint on your mind? Like, we both could have been billionaires if we were born into a billionaire family. But the one thing you can never do, inherited, is a good body, a good mind, something that functions properly. You have to earn that. But I really believe if you make that into a lifestyle and you earn it yourself, your outlook on life will be very, very different. But I don't think people see it that way.
So what, once again, is linked to that sort of getting the root of the problems and just eliminating any problems instead of dragging them out, prolonging it. You really want to find out what the actual issue is and then just cut it off.
Exactly. There's always going to be a root cause, and I don't feel like masking is the way to go forward. Like, it's a bit of courage, because you have to look deep. You have to find out what it is holding yourself back, and you got to cut it out. But once it's done, like I always say, the person you become is not the same as the person you were before that. The character trait is what develops. It's not the six-pack, and it's not the flipping V-tape or Hollywood physique. That's not the thing. People get this all wrong. What's being built is you. It's not your body. Your body is just an outcome, right? It's the person that's being built that's going to go forward and do what needs to be done in their life. Like if you had, let's say, a mental block for 5 years, 6 years, you couldn't transform your body, and in the space of 2 years, you've done it. 3 years, you've done it. How is that going to impact your view of yourself, your self-image? It's going to be crazy.
It's gonna
Like,
be,
you
yeah.
see a mirror and you still have photos of your old self when you see a new self, you're like, "I can't believe I have put the work in to do this." It's gonna change the way you interact with the world. It's gonna change the way you see yourself. Your confidence is gonna be better. And would someone like that have more, just thinking of probability wise, he's gonna be way less likely to have mental health issues, right? If he's exercising regularly, right? He's got a constant release of endorphins. So like people say, oh, Nathan, you don't drink, you don't do this, you don't do that. But I get high every day. I have a cold shower first thing in the morning, then I train. After that, I'm feeling like on top of the moon. Then I'm doing cardio, so I'm pushing past my limits, get a runner's high. This is all you do. That's what I do. You gotta understand. And when I go into the gym, one of the things I think about is the feeling after the session. There's a lot of people they get this wrong. So I just started doing cardio, and I hate doing cardio. Right, I never liked it, but we do these sprints on the treadmill for like 5, 6 rounds, and when I get to the fourth, maybe third round, I'm dead. But the one thing I have in my mind is I can't wait for the feeling of completing that 6th round. You see what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's that
That
self pride. You feel that
exactly,
pride in it.
absolutely, and that's that endorphin release that you have. And once you've done
Mhm.
that, it's very, very unlikely that you're gonna go home and start doing some stupid stuff. You'll feel good about yourself. You know what? I've just done this, right? I'm feeling like a high performer, acting like that 2.0 version. That translates into the next thing you do, right? Let's say if you wake up in the morning and you have a cold shower, and you know what? I've just done a hard thing. You're not gonna pull out the PS5 and start playing COD. Like, let's be honest. You've done a hard thing. You feel good about yourself. You're gonna get into work, and you're like, let me make the coffee. Let me dial in on my business. Let me dial in on my work, and start the day strong. So you have these small little habits that you do, but you chase a little bit of discomfort at the start, and that's how you access that pride and that self motivation.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. You have to be used to discomfort.
It's sort of addictive, isn't it? Like, well, once you get that first glimpse of, okay, like you look back and you think, you know what, I did this. I kind of want to get this feeling again, and then that's where it starts the cycle, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's that positive snowball effect, and
Literally.
you've got to have faith in momentum. This is a very, very important thing. What feels like effort at the start, one day will not feel like effort. It will every now and then, but it will just be an automatic part of your day-to-day life. That's the point that I always tell my clients you want to get to. And that's the best message I can get. When I get the message, I'm like, oh yeah. So they'll just tell me, for example, something busy came up. But I still went to the gym because, I just had to go. I'm like, okay, cool. This is beautiful. So now this is becoming a part of his lifestyle. Like, well, let's just take the athletes in the world, right? With the ones that are performing, even when they're on holiday, but they'll be doing an ice bath. Look at Ronaldo; he'll still be doing his runs. He'll be doing that. He'll be doing this. He's not even playing at his peak anymore, but he's still doing it because it's part of his lifestyle. Right? That's the place where you want to get to. But that doesn't come after a week or two, right? If you think about it, maybe a lot of us have been 10, 15 years living the same habitual, unhealthy lifestyles, right? So you can't expect to make a change in 1 to 2 weeks. You got to let the old self and the old little things chip away. Then you build a new version of yourself, and then you let momentum build, and you let the momentum build, and you don't get in the way of that. And what you find is in maybe 6 weeks, going to the gym feels a little bit easier. In maybe 3 months, meal planning is just automated. In 9 months, your sleep schedule is in check. And in a year, your physique is completely changed, right? And then in 2 years, you're basically cutting out other stuff and making sure you train. That's what's going to happen. But people don't stay in there for long enough for that to come through, if that makes sense.
And then this can link to the entrepreneurial side of it as well, because as you said before, once you start taking those baby steps, you'll start to gain the courage. And then that's when as long as you wait it out a little bit, that's when the pride kicks in. If you think about it, you've got a business, you've had a business for, let's say, 6 months, you look back to when you first started that business, and to see the difference, to see the growth is a different feeling. I'm assuming it's a huge feeling.
Absolutely. But you know what you said there? That's a very important point. And I think this is where a lot of guys mess up, me included,
Mhm.
is that you don't spend that time to reflect, right? So we'll always be looking at where we want to get to. And that's gonna always cause you some sort of negative emotion because you're never ever gonna be where you want to be, right? So it takes sometimes just sitting down and looking back and be like, where was I before? And then you look at the growth that you've had. That's gonna make you feel so much better. Not in like some la-di-da-di, like, cover up the mask emotion, just from an objective sense. Like, let's look at the pure cold hard facts. You had nothing here, and now you're here. You have made progress. Allow yourself to give yourself a pat on the back for that, right? Because that's going to give you a positive reinforcement. Like, you know, like if you imagine if you had a kid or something, I don't know, I'm not obviously don't have a kid, but he does something good. You're going to say, well done. You're going to say, you know,
100%.
absolutely. Because why? You want him to repeat that behavior. But when it
Mhm.
comes to ourselves, we're so self-critical that we don't do that. So we'll do all the work and we'll make progress, but we don't take a minute to look back and be like, you know what, well done, but you stuck it out, cool. Don't mean you kick your feet up and relax, but have that
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
you know, well done, you've made the progress, give yourself a pat on the back and you can move on. So I think reflection is very, very important for that as well. That's a great point.
You can use it as motivation.
Absolutely. You want to be your own source of motivation as much as possible, right? And I think that's the most important thing because at the start, you'll want them catalysts of looking outside and be like, oh, you know, he's done it, so I want to do it. But the best feeling is when you can look back at what you've done in the past year, for example, and be like, oh, you know what? I've gone through these challenges and I've done that. So what's stopping me from doing the next thing? That's when you can really start to build that momentum. And that's when like your life starts to take a different trajectory. I feel like when you can be your own source of motivation, because then you're not relying on anybody else. And obviously, you'll still get inspired by people, which I think is a great thing. But if you could make yourself be your own source of motivation, but then to do that, you have to solve your own problems and you have to be honest with yourself, which goes back to the first point. You can't fake it. Like, let's say if you want to transform your body, it's been something in your mind for 2, 3 years and you put it off and put it off and put it off. It's going to be very hard for you to motivate yourself when you know that there's something that you've been avoiding. So you have to be like, right, okay, cool. So this is something that I need to fix. Let me look at myself in the mirror. Let me face it and be like, right, I'm going to solve this problem. And you solve one problem and you move on to the next one. You don't half it because then it's going to keep creeping up. Right? Like it's going to come back in 2 to 3 years. If you've not fixed, let's say if I didn't fix the problem of fitness, I didn't make it consistent, didn't make it into a lifestyle, and I started a business, whatever it may be. Next thing you know, my fitness is going down the hill. Now I've got a business to hold, and my fitness is horrendous. Two big problems, right? So what you do, you fix one thing, you move on to the next thing. So now my life is just focused on building this business. And I don't have my fitness holding me back. It's more of a enjoyable thing because I know I've got my base set. I'm just trying to progress it. So it's not like something that I need to actively try and fix. It's more like a bonus, if anything. But the problem most people make, I feel, is they'll start something and they don't finish it properly. So then they've got added weight that they're going to carry on for the rest of their life instead of just spending a couple of years to fix this problem and be like, right, this is what I need to solve. This is a value of mine of being in good shape, of being healthy. So let me dedicate a couple of years to make sure this is part of my lifestyle. And like you said, know what to do in these different scenarios. And then you can move on to the next thing in your life.
Yeah.
And build upon that.
Honestly, Nithin, I have to say this has been a wonderful chat.
Absolutely, bro.
One last question. I know I said
Let's
it
go.
before, but I've got one last question before we go.
Shoot.
You just said now that your life currently is now creating this business and building it up. What's one piece of advice that either you've seen or been told that you apply to the business or you apply to everyday life every day? And what's one thing that an entrepreneur, maybe in the same position or even wanting to start off a business, what's one piece of advice you give to them?
Patience. If you can master the skill of patience, you'll have an absolute breeze. But it's the most difficult thing to manage in our lifestyle because everything is instant, right? You go on your phone, you can search something instantly. You can order a piece of clothing and have it arrive on the same day now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can.
If you want, you can have like that. But when it comes to two things, your health and your business, you will not get that tomorrow. You need to stick it out. And no matter what happens, the day you decide to stop doing your inputs, that's the day your business will fail. So you basically need to keep going regardless of what the output looks like. And I think that's the most difficult situation because we're used to doing something and seeing an immediate result. But with business, you're basically doing trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. I need to be patient with that process. You might fall back down to ground zero. You might lose everything, but you still have to keep going and you still have to keep pushing forward. And that would honestly be the one piece of advice. If you've got resilience and you can be patient, then one day it'll come. And I always think of that, you know, the image of the guy shoveling. There's two people, right?
Oh yeah.
Guy shoveling, and it's like a half image, and they're trying to get gold. One guy
Yeah,
shovels,
yeah, yeah.
and he
Yeah.
stops, turns around, and walks back that
Just as
way.
he's close, is it?
This close, right?
Yeah.
Well, another guy, he keeps going, one
Mhm.
extra shovel, and he gets that. So whatever your business might be, could be like I said, bro, podcast, it could be YouTube, it could be a client, it could be the next call, it could be the next message, it could be the next video, it could be the next thing. The thing is, we don't know. So
Yeah.
you just gotta keep going no matter what. And the day that you throw in the towel is the day you've guaranteed that you won't make it. But if you keep going, then your chances literally increase infinitely.
Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna say one thing. Your understanding, your knowledge, and your passion for both entrepreneurship and fitness is genuinely inspiring to people like myself and the audience watching as well. So I'd like to thank you for sharing
Appreciate that,
all of
bro.
that on our episode today.
Thank you so much. It's been
I
a
know,
great
for a
conversation.
fact, if I'm ever in need of a personal trainer, I know exactly who I'm gonna call.
Yes,
Let's be
sick, bro.
honest. I don't think there's anyone better for me right now.
Sick.
But for the audience, thank you very much for watching today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Nithin, good luck to you and your future. And please, if you guys want to tune in next week, please do. We'll be back. Thank you very much for watching the podcast.